In the quiet hours of the night, when the world has gone still and the noise fades into silence, many of us find ourselves battling invisible wars. Our hearts race without reason. Our thoughts spin like a storm. And even when the room is peaceful, the mind refuses to be. Anxiety, depression, burnout, they've become the silent epidemics of the modern world. We're constantly connected but deeply disconnected from ourselves. We have access to everything and yet feel emptier than ever. But what if I told you that over 2,000 years ago, ancient philosophers, men in robes, walking dusty roads under Roman skies, faced the same inner battles we do today? What if they had discovered wisdom not just for their time, but for all time? And what if their words could still guide us through the chaos of our modern minds? There's a man named Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, commander of legions, ruler of the known world. He sat at the pinnacle of power, wealth, and control. And yet, in his private journal, what we now call meditations, he didn't write about triumph or conquest. He wrote about fear, about loss, about how to hold on to sanity when everything around you feels like it's crumbling. One of his lines simply reads, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Those words may be centuries old, but don't they sound like the advice we seek today in therapy, books, and podcasts? In a time when the world feels like it's spinning too fast, when pressure mounts and our thoughts betray us, Marcus's words cut through the fog like a lighthouse in a storm. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was trying to survive his own mind. Just like we are. Modern mental health struggles often feel like something new, like a unique side effect of social media, economic stress, or the breakneck pace of modern life. But the truth is, the core of human suffering hasn't changed. What has changed is how we respond to it. Today, we numb. We distract. We scroll. We run. But the Stoics? They turned inward. They didn't deny their pain, they studied it, understood it, and mastered it. Take Epictetus. He was born a slave. Crippled early in life. He had every reason to be angry, bitter, broken. But he said something radical: it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. He believed that while we can't always control the chaos around us, we can always control how we meet it. That kind of radical self-responsibility is not cold, it's empowering. It reminds us that our minds, even when fractured, are not helpless. Imagine someone today, scrolling through an endless feed of perfect lives while battling feelings of worthlessness. That person may believe they're alone. That no one has ever felt this hollow, this lost. But if that person could sit for a moment with Seneca, the wealthy Roman advisor who lost his child and was later forced to take his own life by the emperor he once served, they'd find companionship in suffering. Seneca wrote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." Doesn't that echo what so many of us feel today? The quiet, persistent battle just to make it through the day? Stoicism isn't about denying emotions. That's one of the greatest misconceptions. It's about understanding them so deeply that they no longer control you. It's about saying, yes, I am sad. I am afraid. But I do not belong to these emotions, they belong to me. And I will decide how long they stay. In the modern world, we're often told to chase happiness. That is the ultimate goal. But the Stoics never chased happiness. They chased virtue, courage, wisdom, justice, self-control. They believed that if you lived according to these principles, happiness would follow, not as a goal, but as a byproduct. And maybe that's what we've gotten wrong. Maybe it's not about fixing our feelings, but fixing how we live. There's a quiet kind of healing in that idea. Because when depression whispers that you're worthless, Stoicism reminds you that worth isn't something you find, it's something you live out. When anxiety screams that you're out of control, Stoicism gently points you back to what you can control: your thoughts, your actions, your responses. Think about how often we give our peace away. A bad comment ruins our day. A friend's silence sends our mind spinning. An unanswered text becomes proof of our unworthiness. The Stoics would smile gently and say, "You suffer more in imagination than in reality." That's Seneca again. He saw how much pain we create for ourselves. Not from what happens, but from what we tell ourselves about what happens. Let me take you to a modern scene: a teenager, lying in bed, paralyzed by panic over school, social pressure, and a future that feels too big and too fast. That teen might feel like they're drowning in expectations. Now imagine if they were handed the words of Epictetus, who said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." What if that teen learned not to fight every thought, but to let go of the ones that don't serve them? What if they saw every moment of fear as a training ground for strength? Or imagine a single mother, juggling 3 jobs, trying to keep her family afloat, barely having time to breathe. Stoicism wouldn't tell her to smile and pretend everything's fine. It would validate her suffering. And then it would whisper, "You are doing what is in your power. Let go of what is not." It would remind her that strength is not in perfection, but in persistence. And you, right now, listening. Maybe you're tired. Maybe your mind has become a battlefield. Stoicism isn't a cure-all. It won't magically erase the pain. But it offers a way through it. A map. A hand on your shoulder saying, "You're not broken. You're becoming." The Stoics believed that life is not supposed to be easy. That it's the hardship, the friction, the fire that forges the soul. That suffering isn't a punishment, it's an invitation to grow. When you begin to see pain not as a curse but as a call to courage, something shifts inside you. You stop running. You start standing. And from that stance, even the darkest night becomes bearable. There's a practice in Stoicism called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. They would imagine worst-case scenarios not to torture themselves, but to prepare. To become familiar with fear, so it wouldn't control them. They'd ask, what if I lost my wealth? My health? My loved ones? And in facing those fears mentally, they trained their hearts to withstand them physically. It wasn't morbid. It was liberating. In today's world, we avoid thinking about death, failure, and loss. But the Stoics ran toward those thoughts, not to suffer, but to prepare. And maybe that's what we need today. Not more avoidance. More awareness. Not more comfort. More courage. And courage, as the Stoics knew, doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means acting rightly in spite of it. Every time you get out of bed when your mind begs you to stay under the covers, that's Stoicism. Every time you choose a kind word over a cruel impulse, that's Stoicism. Every time you forgive yourself for not being perfect and still choose to try again, that's Stoicism. You don't need a robe. You don't need ancient books. You just need to remember, you have power over your mind. Not outside events. Just your mind. That is where your freedom lies. And I know, some days, it feels like you're losing the battle. But hear me, you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of those thoughts. The commander of your internal army. The guardian of your peace. You are not weak because you feel overwhelmed. You are strong because you are still here, listening, hoping, breathing. The Stoics would be proud of that. They would look at you or not at your success, or your possessions, or your image, but at your resilience. At your quiet fight. At your willingness to face another day. And they would say, you are practicing the highest form of philosophy, not in theory, but in life itself. So tonight, when the noise returns, when the doubts rise like waves, remember this, you are not alone. You are not broken. You are becoming. And deep inside you, beneath the panic, beneath the pain, there is a steady voice, the voice of reason, of virtue, of ancient wisdom, whispering, stay the course. This too shall pass. And through it, you will rise.